What's happening, everybody? Locked on Lions for a Thursday. Brad Spielberger going to join us from PFF. Let's talk some money.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is a Thursday edition of Locked On Lions, everybody, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Matt Dery with you on a Thursday, July 7th and a Friday, July 8th. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day right here on Locked On Lions. A lot being made about the Lions having the most expensive offense in the NFL this year. A lot of it is based on how the contracts were structured, not just by Brad Holmes, but mostly by his predecessor, the former maestro Bob Quinn. We'll get into that with Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus, the salary cap analyst, coming up in a matter of moments right here on Locked On Lions. Follow us on Twitter, please, at Dery Speaks, D-E-R-Y Speaks, at Locked On Lions on Twitter, and also the Matt Dery Facebook fan page. And as you know, by now, we are right here on YouTube. That is correct. Follow the page, subscribe, like us, comment, watch us each and every day on the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. All right, dog days right now. We got training camp coming up in a few weeks, preseason starting early August. It is exciting. And it's funny. We've had a lot of the guys from PFF on, and we're going to talk to Brad momentarily, but a lot of people are high on what Detroit is doing based on some of the momentum that this team certainly has with a young roster, with the coaching staff coming back and everything in place. Then I see some stupidity on the internet. And I'm not going to tell you where, but people say, oh, the Lions have the most expensive offense. That sucks. No, that has nothing to do with anything. Warren Sharp from Sharp Football put this tweet out the other day. Most expensive offenses in 2022 based on, all right, salaries for this season. And the Lions have $123 million in offensive salary for 2022. Detroit is number one, followed by Dallas, then Washington, Tennessee, Arizona, and Kansas City. Oh, by the way, those first six teams all are over $120 million. Lions at 123, Dallas at 122, Washington at 122, Tennessee at 121, Arizona 121, and Kansas City at 120.4 million dollars into their offense. Bottom five, Houston 89, Seattle 82 million, Atlanta 74 million, Pittsburgh 63 million, and Chicago 62 million. What do all of those teams have in common? None of them are paying a high-priced quarterback. Houston doesn't have one, neither does Seattle, neither does Atlanta, neither does Pittsburgh, and certainly Chicago doesn't either. Justin Fields is on his rookie deal. The reason why the Lions offense is at $123 million is because Jared Goff is making like $32 million this year based on his salary. Remember, three of their offensive linemen, Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow has got a new deal, and Halapoulivaati Vaitai are all making over $10 million. DJ Chark is making $11 million on a one-year deal. TJ Hawkinson's salary went up to $7-8 million this season. All right. So the Lions have, yes, an expensive offense based on a lot of the money and how it is set. And again, Jared Goff's number comes way down after the season, and there'll only be like a $10 million cap hit if the team decided to let him go after this season, which I don't believe that they are going to do. So this is nothing to panic about. It's nothing to go crazy about. The Lions are not over the cap at the moment. And again, a lot of this money, and we'll ask Brad about it, is some front-loaded deals, and deals like Goff's, where last year they brought his number down for last season, but now it's up for this season. Some of it was a can kick by Bob Quinn, namely Vaitai and a few others. So keep that in mind. Expensive or not, the offense has to score points. The offense has to improve. And there has to be some downfield passing game, which we didn't see a year ago. All right, we're going to talk to Brad from PFF coming up next. I want to tell you first about our friends at Built Bar. I told you this yesterday, And I'm hopeful that you went to built.com and ordered yourself some coconut brownie chunk Built bars. You can get those, but you need to be getting the coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs, the marshmallowy treat, which is absolutely delicious. I'm like salivating right now. A marshmallow treat, coconut, brownie, chunks of chocolate, dipped in 100% real chocolate. It's all chocolate. It's unbelievable. A fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. These puffs, coconut brownie chunk puffs, are only here for a limited time. So go to built.com and make sure that you do not miss out. I love Built bars. I was talking to my daughter today. She brought up Built bar. I loved it. Coconut rich, sweet brownie, creamy marshmallow. Stop fantasizing. Get to built.com to order your box of coconut brownie chunk Built Puffs right now. Go to built.com. You get some money off if you use the promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off of your order. That's promo code LOCKED15. Our friends at Built Bar have been a sponsor for years, and we absolutely love them. Absolutely, we do. And our guest today here on Locked On Lions, let's bring him in right now, Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. We always love talking to the fellas from PFF and the ladies. And Brad joins us today. He is the salary cap analyst. That's his main role at Pro Football Focus. And he joins me now. What's up, Brad?
Hey, not much. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I know before we hit record here, you're bullish, similar to your buddy Eric Eager and some others on the Lions and what they've done. As you look at 2 years now of Brad Holmes and entering 2 years, I guess, of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, what stands out right now?
Yeah, I think it was a bit underrated, the mess they inherited. Not just having to move on from Matthew Stafford, but some bloated contracts, some money kicked down the line, and having to clean up, the entire regime before them's mess. And I think they've gone about it in a patient way, understanding that they weren't going to fix it overnight. I mean, even this offseason, they spent the sixth fewest, guarantees to external free agents of any team. So, again, you want to get better. You want to start winning football games. But if they want to build a sustained, potentially competitive team, I think they are going about that the right way.
You mentioned the money a little bit, and that's kind of your focus. As far as tell the fans, I guess, watching and listening, where are the Lions from a salary cap perspective, and how do you like their positioning in terms of finances? Because like you said, they haven't in the last 2 years broken the bank in free agency. Never easy destination, Detroit, no matter what team we're talking about, Pistons, Red Wings, or Tigers. But how do you kind of view their cap right now?
Yeah, it's not as healthy as you probably would hope for it to be for a team that has not had a ton of success the last couple of years. But, again, I'm not really blaming Brad Holmes and this new group and Mike Disner and some of the guys in that front office for that. It's not their fault. They're cleaning house. They're getting rid of some contracts that we talked about a little bit pre-show, and they're making sure that they don't have any bloated deals that prevent them from, let's say they land that quarterback next year, or they get some momentum and win 7-8 games this year, something like that. They then can spend. But yeah, they also were not spending a lot because they are a little bit still, strapped on the cap for this season and a little bit next season.
Well, it starts with Jared Goff, and I know his number is good after this season, and they can get out from underneath this contract if they want. But right now, his cap number is over $30 million, and like you said, that's probably not the best. But again, if he plays well, who cares?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the interesting thing there was when them and the Colts made the trades for him and Carson Wentz, the Lions did go ahead and prorate some of his money. So, took some of that salary and kicked it down the line. I wonder if maybe they regret that decision a little bit. They can move on after the season. The penalty is not too bad. But, it does kind of make them, I think he was a staple on this year's roster because of that. But yeah, like you said, if he plays well and has that good offensive line, gets some legitimate NFL weapons on the team now, maybe it does age better and doesn't look so bad going forward.
Brad Spielberger with us from PFF. When you look at cap numbers for players on other teams and you look at the situation with, like you mentioned, with Goff and the $30 million hit, I guess, this year, how do you view that for a rebuilding team and a team kind of in year two? Or do you look at the Lions and say, you're not declaring that the rebuild's over, but that they can, bump up that win total this year?
Yeah, so the thing that they're trying to avoid is pushing too much of that cap down the line. Yes, they don't have a ton of space right now, and again, maybe people wanted to add some more talent and they couldn't. But what that does is make it more flexible and easier to maneuver next year. So if they wanted to spend, they then could look at guys like a Taylor Decker or some of the higher paid players on the team and go ahead and prorate some of that money if those guys stay healthy. Him and Ragnow and some of the higher paid guys. Maybe make a move with Vitae and start to clear up some room and add talent elsewhere. Again, they're just kind of taking their time. They're eating some cap hits now to not balloon these huge cap hits in the future. And I do think that will benefit them in the long run.
But I think we need to point out that a lot of these moves, or at least a few of them, were inherited, like you said, by Brad Holmes, to the point where I'm sure Brad looked up and said, wait a minute, in 2022, we've got to have this aligned with this player and all that. So how much of that do you put on the previous regime and Bob Quinn?
No, a ton, if not all of it. Everyone had to deal with the salary cap drop in 2020. So, of course, that was part of it as well. And I think that's why they made some moves in pushing Goff's money down the line. Jamie Collins kind of restructuring his deal and pushing some of his money down the line. I don't think they would have done that if not for the salary cap drop. So hard to put that all on them. But no, they were left a mess. I think a lot of folks point to, the new Atlanta regime and the mess they were left, which is definitely a mess, maybe a mess and a half. But no, they had a lot to clean up. And I think they have done a good job for the most part. And ensuring that as they cleaned it up, they didn't also kind of hemorrhage the future, which Atlanta has kind of done a little bit. And then when they come out on the other side, extra draft capital always helps. They have some more future picks again. And they can really then, like I said, if you see growth around the roster, then you can get aggressive in pursuing, some players from outside the building.
When you look at the roster, a lot's been made about the Lions, and this is kind of a shock because last year there were games they could not score. The Lions offense is the most expensive offense in the NFL, based a lot of it on the O-line, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's based on salary cap. It's not from a cash perspective. So they're kind of have some more front-loaded deals with some larger salaries. But yeah, when you're paying, 3 offensive linemen amongst the highest paid players at their position, whether you want to call Vitae a right guard at this point, he would be up there. And obviously Ragnow, well-deserved, but one of the highest paid centers. And frankly, Taylor Decker is actually on a great value deal. I think it's one of the underrated, better value contracts for a very good left tackle. But yeah, you get the money there. And then, of course, the quarterback kind of dictates how everything else on the roster goes. When you're giving him $30+ million, in a cap hit in a single season, it's going to bloat, the entire offensive spend. But, it's not something that is going to impact that long term. And that's the key, is that they can get out of some of these deals they don't like, or they can move some money around if they want to be more aggressive, maybe starting in 2023.
Let me ask you this. David Njoku just got $13 million a year from the Browns. And for 2 years, he was basically Austin Hooper's backup. TJ Hawkinson's numbers coming up. Do you think that just based on the Njoku deal that Hawk could catapult past Kelsey and Kittle just in terms of timing?
I really do. Yeah. I think we're also going to see if multi-year deals get done on Dalton Schultz and Mike Gesicki in the next, 8 days before that franchise tag deadline passes. But I could see those guys potentially threaten the $15 million per year for George Kittle. And I know folks heard that sometimes and kind of think it's crazy, but that deal for Kittle was signed in 2020, and this is just how markets go. And then you also, you see wide receiver explode this offseason, and you got to think some of these tight ends, especially a guy like Hawkinson. Look, he's a top 10 pick. He is a productive receiver, needs to maybe stay healthy for more time, but Njoku has had issues staying on the field, probably more so than Hawkinson. I think if he has another good year, it's very possible he does surpass that $15 million per year number. But I do think this 2022 season is pivotal in how that goes.
Salary cap analyst from PFF, Brad Spielberger, with me. I want to ask you about the team in general and get away from the money, but I want to defense as you look at the contracts and the cap. On that side of the ball, it's a lot of young people. Certainly Brockers is being paid, but how do you view kind of the defense from a money perspective?
Yeah, so I might be more bullish on this defense, than a lot of folks. And you do need to see some growth from some young players, but I'm kind of a build through the trenches type of guy. And maybe that's why I am, optimistic with the Lions in general, because I like their offensive line. And then I really like the last 2 draft classes across that defensive line. I think we're going to see growth from Ali McNeil and Levi Uzurike. And then obviously, this year adding Aiden Hutchinson and I think a bit of an underrated player in Josh Pascal out of Kentucky. I like bringing back Charles Harris. Got to get him and Romeo Okwara, again, healthy. But if you have those 6 guys playing at a decent level, none of them making money because, it's a lot of rookie contracts and then some mid-tier veteran guys. I mean, that's a good defensive line that does not cost you a lot of money. You maybe then can add some more talent in the secondary or otherwise. Obviously, they did pay Tracy Walker. But no, I'm high on this defense. Again, they need to grow. They need to get older. They need to, learn the NFL game for some of these younger players. But I think that could be, if they all, or maybe, some of those guys take that leap, that could be a good unit, maybe in the near future.
More with Brad coming up next right here on Locked On Lions. Brad Spielberger with us from PFF. We appreciate David and the crew at PFF hooking us up with Brad and getting to meet all the crew. It seems like we're just shuttling through all the PFF guys on the show, but we love talking to you guys and breaking it down. Money-wise, the Lions are okay. You mentioned, it's not like I think they're going to be bringing in Odell Beckham tomorrow and paying him an exorbitant amount or any of these other free agents, even Ndamukong Suh, who I'd love to see the Lions bring back, but I don't think that's happening. On the field, take the salaries away. You like the improvement and you like that some of the talent that they've added here, Brad. How do you view the Lions within the division? And are you with me that I don't think they're finishing in last place this year?
Well, sadly, I do not think they're finishing in last place. I say sadly because I am from Chicago, but
yes.
No, I do. I think they're, could finish third and frankly could finish in second place if things potentially do not go great in Minnesota. That's kind of a patchwork team, and they're relying on some veterans, some injury, guys with injury history or have had issues recently, and maybe things go south again, and they could be, the second place team in that division. I think we all are sick of it, but are probably, penciling in, if not sharpieing in, the Packers to win the division. But yeah, I mean, even the small additions they did make, I like bringing in DJ Chark on a 1-year flyer. I like bringing in Mike Hughes on the defense on a 1-year flyer as, Jerry Jacobs and Jeff Okudah get healthy. I like their approach, and I think they could, win 7-8 games if things break their way. It's a weak division. Frankly, the NFC conference is pretty weak overall. And yeah, I think if things break their way, they have talent. The coaching staff, another year with all these players, they're getting older, they're getting experience. I think we could see some growth, and that could lead to wins.
Are you a DeAndre Swift guy? Do you think this is the year that is kind of the breakout if he stays healthy?
I do. I mean, I think he's a great pass catching back, and now you want to see him become a true 3-down guy, pass blocking, obviously running the football. He's remarkably talented. I mean, he's been a great player dating back to high school in the Pennsylvania area, always been, one of the best players, talent-wise around. Got to stay healthy, but yeah, I think he could, if this offensive line gels and you have the tackle sorted and really not a weak spot on that unit, at least compared to other teams across the NFL, he could have a big year for sure.
You mentioned the Bears before. Man, it's like a police blotter every day at Hallis Hall. 3 guys are. I mean, talk about a bad offseason. And I know that they're relying a lot on Justin Fields, and I'm completely veering us off the road here for a second. But you being a Chicago guy, that could be a team in big trouble, don't you think?
100%. No, I mean, I think there is, Fields is kind of the difference maker in that if he takes that second-year leap or even just, improves upon his last year, and I do think we saw some flashes, but outside of him, that roster, I think, is one of the worst rosters, if not the worst roster in the NFL. I do some valuations where it's basically valuing every single player on the team, and they came in dead last, even with Justin Fields. I think Atlanta, is probably in that conversation as well. But yeah, I mean, the offensive line is maybe one of the worst units in the NFL. The pass catching group is, as bad as the Lions last year and maybe the worst group in the NFL, and then David Moore, a guy who could have contributed as a wide receiver, probably going to get cut now following his arrest, if I had to guess. So yeah, they are not in a good spot. I would say this, if Fields was not there, I think we would all be saying they're tanking. Like, I think we're not seeing that word associated with this team because they have a quarterback and we kind of associate tanking with quarterbacks. I don't think they're trying to win football games in 2022, and I don't think they're going to.
Ouch. That could be rough, though, when you have a first-year GM and a first-year coach. I know we went through it last year here, but it was announced that the Lions were starting over and what they came from. And I know the Bears were not in a great spot, but just a few years ago, Matt Nagy was taking that team to double-digit wins, which was kind of bizarre. But tell me about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Year one, immensely talented second half. Can he keep this up, or do you almost want to see them spread the football around Like you mentioned, Chark, Jamison, Williams, and maybe Amon-Ra's numbers aren't as good as they were a year ago.
I don't know if I would go that far because, end of the day, he's still a rookie player being able to do that. I do think, he has some kind of athletic limitations. Like he obviously didn't test super well. And even if you watch his college tape, he was productive, but never really kind of blew your socks off or made you go, wow, that guy is the best player on the field. And yeah, he was, playing good competition. But I think he's capable of being a very, very productive guy, a great safety valve. But I think you saw, you trade up from 32 to 12 to get a Jameis Williams because you obviously don't think, hey, this Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to, become a number one wide receiver. I think he's a very, very good number two, potentially wide receiver down the road. But yeah, I'm not going to go so far as to say the numbers were inflated or they're kind of fake or whatever. Yes, they were, trailing a lot of games and maybe, opposing defenses weren't taking him or the entire, team super seriously. So maybe he got some production that way. But no, I think he's a crafty guy. He understands how to, manipulate zones. I think he's got, a lot of those kind of, not intangible is the wrong word, but I think he's just a savvy, smart player that, could be around for a long time and just be, again, not a number one, but a really productive guy for a while.
Talking to Brad Spielberger from Pro Football Focus. You mentioned what you liked on the defense earlier, Brad. The pass rush, they've added depth. It seems like Brad Holmes is collecting defensive linemen. What worries you about that defensive unit, though?
Yeah, the secondary is still pretty scary. Jerry Jacobs was our highest graded undrafted free agent, the entire NFL last year. Obviously, he, tore his ACL. Okudah, obviously has not lived up to his number 3 overall pick billing. I think he is talented. I think this transition to a different defense and, guys in this defense that are, came from the New Orleans Saints as secondary coaches. And really, all they did was make Ohio State cornerbacks into great players. That's basically what they did for years with the Saints. So, I've seen videos of him. It looks like he's super healthy. His Achilles is coming along. But that unit in general, and I mentioned, I like Mike Hughes, but that unit is still, I think probably a year away. And if they're not generating, pressure and getting to the quarterback with consistency, it's a secondary that good quarterbacks can pick apart. So that's probably where I would still be concerned for 2022.
Dan Campbell, year one, was interesting, to say the least. Now, I think he's going to be still calling the plays, even though Ben Johnson's the OC. But what do you think about what Campbell has done? Obviously, off the field has been great, and here comes a Hard Knocks next month, which is going to be nuts. But what do you think about on the field and how many, I think it was SI the other day said he's the 3rd worst coach in the NFL. I didn't agree with that, but how do you kind of assess where he's at right now as a head coach?
Yeah, I think like you said, he's clearly has buy-in in this locker room. I think he's a phenomenal motivator. Obviously, Sean Payton spoke very highly of him and his ability to coach guys up. But I would say I do view him as a guy you maybe don't want to be calling plays, or maybe, just like really, I think we love him, from an analytics perspective. He's willing to risk it and go on 4th downs and make truly the correct mathematical decisions. He listens to the folks that give him advice in that building, which is always great to see. Because I think we can kind of, underrate that how much influence a coach can truly have on Sundays. Sometimes those little edge cases of adding 1% win probability by going for those plays and stuff like that can be a massive, addition as a coach. But I will say, Anthony Lynn, I don't think is a phenomenal play caller either. I kind of put him in the same vein. I think he was great at developing talent, getting buy-in, getting players to believe in what they were, promoting. But yeah, I'm higher on him. He's definitely not a bottom 3 head coach in my mind at all. I think he has the right to call plays again, but I would say, let's say hypothetically, they show progress this year. They are a good team. Maybe you want him to be more of that CEO type that is not calling plays on either side of the ball, which look, Bill Belichick, John Harbaugh, good on the list of the best coaches in the NFL, and they're not doing that either. I would say maybe that's a goal for 2023 and beyond. But yeah, as of right now, I think he deserves runway. I think he is going about it the right way. He's in lockstep with the GM. And I think folks are still kind of just tethered to that opening press conference, and his antics about drinking 10 espressos a day, which may not be good for his heart. But I think he's a good coach, or has the ability to become a good coach in this league.
And you mentioned before about play calling and Bill Belichick. Could it really be that Matt Patricia is going to call offensive plays in New England? That would just be, for us here in Detroit, just the biggest head scratcher of all time, Brad.
I think the Giants fans would be scratching their head just as much if Joe Judge was the offensive play caller.
Right.
So right now, you know what? That's their MO. They like coaches that are just football coaches first, and then they have their, side of the ball expertise second. They like to, cross-train guys and all that. But, yeah, I think if I'm Mac Jones going from Josh McDaniels to Matt Patricia as the guy on my headset on Sundays, I'm probably not stoked about it.
Brad, appreciate you stopping by, brother. Thanks so much for doing it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brad Spielberger with us from PFF, salary cap analyst. Follow him on Twitter at PFF_Brad. That'll do it for a Thursday edition of Locked On Lions. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are back again on Monday.